Hey everyone, I'm your host, Robbie Strazynski, and thanks so much for joining us on episode number 44 of CardsChat, the friendliest poker podcast in town. Today's guest is the president of the Global Poker Index and Hendon mob, Eric Danis, an absolute treasure trove of trivia as relates to everything about stats and numbers in the poker world. Eric leads the equivalent of poker's Elias Sports Bureau. He also proudly presides over our industry's annual award ceremony and is just one of the nicest and most pleasant people you'll ever meet. Today, we'll get to know him a little better. Eric, welcome to the Cards Chat podcast.
Robbie, you'll get a love letter from my mom. You pronounced my last name correctly. Thank you so much.
That's what it's all about. Well, it's so good to see you again and to speak with you. How you been?
It's been a while, right? It's been a while. Last time I saw you, you were on screen accepting an award. So it's been that long. So
it has been a while.
I've been okay. I will admit that in the last 3 weeks, my wife has seen me on the laptop in the bed at 9 p.m. It's been a while since that happened. So we're busy. We actually had, last week the guys had told me that we're backlogged in tickets. And I was like, that's amazing, So they were upset, but I was excited. So it really does look like things are slowly but surely getting back to normal. And schedule-wise, it looks like a lot of events are coming down the pipe. And the busier the poker world is, the happier we are, because that's what we do. So
for sure. Oh, that's absolutely wonderful. We're definitely going to get into, the whole pandemic period for you guys and pivoting in and out and stuff. But let's start at the beginning. Who is Eric Danis? I mean, I know your interest in poker and card games started as a kid up in Canada. Yeah. So why don't you tell us sort of about those days and card playing back, with the family?
Yeah, in French Canada, it is pretty much it's not anymore, but was tradition Saturday nights or, hockey night in Canada, or la soirée du hockey for us French people. And everyone would come over. I remember we used to have a house where me and my family were on the top level and my grandparents were on the bottom level. And every Saturday, my grandma would put on a feast, and the uncles and both sides of the family would come over. We had a very close knit family, both sides together. And then undoubtedly cards would be pulled. And I first learned cribbage. These guys were playing games that, even to this day, they play a game called 500, which I don't know if it's just a French Canadian game or if there's always variants of a lot of stuff. And to this day, they're experts at that game and they cheat so well. They just, the smooth cheating where you're like, wait a minute, now I get what's going on.
Right.
So, they're great at that. But cribbage was always, when I was young, and then, my grandfather and I would play, my father and I would play, and with some of my friends. So definitely, if you would ask me what, card game I would get into as a profession if I was a child, I would have said cribbage. And in high school, I actually came out with cribbage stats as part of a math project, and my teacher was blown away and was like, "You're really wasting your time here. There's no future in this in this statistical format." But it actually helped our play. My buddy Al and I, up until maybe 10 years ago, we always used to play, retirement homes. We'd be invited to play their cribbage tournaments. Knights of Columbus in Canada. There's a lot of cribbage there, and we were like the young studs. It's funny to be like 38 years old and be called a young guy. So
I know that very well.
Yeah,
that's how I feel when I'm playing stud high-low at the Orleans.
Exactly. The exact same situation. But those stats actually helped us. Cribbage percentage, and especially, was a stat that we looked at very carefully. So it actually did improve our game. So maybe I'll come out with super system of cribbage. Maybe 7 people will buy the book. So that's long-winded answer, but that's how I got my start in cards. One day I was watching a show featuring Patrick Bruel Patrick Bruel, and he was on a French Canadian show, which was the Johnny Carson type of show in French Canada. And he had said he had just come back from the World Series of Poker. And I was like, I've heard of this. And Bruel was always playing there all the time. And Bruel was one of my idols growing up. So, I really caught an interest in the World Series then. This would have been probably in the early 90s, so a long time ago.
Okay.
And then, and then our TSN, which is our version of ESPN, started showing the World Series from the ESPN feed, and probably late 90s. And that's when I really, really, really got involved in poker. And funny enough, our group still even to this day, we still usually don't play No Limit Hold'em. There was a time there we would, but it's always the classic games, some stud and some, some draw games and, games that we probably invented but already exist. I always have a story where I thought I invented open face Chinese, and then I was at the 2002 World Series, I think, and I saw Phil Hellmuth play with another man, and I'm like, what are you guys playing? And then they said, this is open face Chinese. I was like, well, I invented that game a year ago, apparently. So yeah, friends were crushed. We used to call it Moose where we were from. So,
of course.
Yes, of course.
Moose
That's right.
From Canada.
A lot of Moose.
And you still sort of playing this home game today with your buddies once in a while?
Whenever I'm back, and I hope to be back in Canada in the next maybe 90 days, 120 days. Some restrictions have lifted in Canada, so I haven't been able to go back. I haven't seen my family since last year's award, so that's 16 months now. And my goddaughter I haven't seen in 2 years. So, and Robbie, you have young children. She was 5 the last time I saw her. She's 7 now. She's a human now. Like, she has thoughts, she has feelings, emotions. She can articulate. So I've missed a lot of that. So FaceTime just doesn't do it justice. So hopefully in that trip, yes, I will get to play with the boys and to go back to our game. We even have guys that don't play poker in our group that play poker just because of us. So they'll just play just for fun. And I can tell you that I can't tell you who's won any of our tournaments because it doesn't matter. We just have,
it's all about the camaraderie and making memories.
Yeah, if someone still wants to play when we're three-handed, we're like, yeah, come in, let's go. Who cares?
Nice. Very cool.
So there's bragging rights for 6 minutes.
Well, you talked about, card playing. You talked about when you were in high school, maybe thinking that's the direction you were going to go in. But I know you studied in college, you studied radio broadcasting. Yeah. So did you kind of have ambitions to become a professional in that field at some point?
My dream was to become a public address announcer at in a hockey rink or anywhere else. And I used to do that. I actually did that for my local junior team. And funny enough, I used to be the DJ and the announcer when I think I started at 12 or 13, and I ended up being the general manager and president of that hockey club, 20 years later. So it's a club that, is very important to our community. So, that was cool. But yeah, that was my dream. Paul Morris, Claude Mouton, who used to do the announcing at the Montreal Forum. That was my dream. So that's why I went into radio. Radio was changing a lot when I was in college. We were still using reels, but a lot of people in a lot of bigger cities were using, digital. So, I was behind the 8 ball in that. It also would have in a lot of apprenticeship. Yes. Something like that.
Apprenticeship, yeah.
Right, there you go. I had to deal with going outside of my hometown, and I wasn't ready to leave for such a long time at that point. I love my friends, love my hometown. Funny enough to hear that from a guy that now lives in Las Vegas. But back
we'll
then,
talk about that too. Sure.
Right. But back then, leaving the house was not something that I was interested in. So, I didn't pursue it. You're 18, 19, 20, you need to make money. So I started working in an audio store. I would sell VCRs and, sound systems. That was my big expertise level there.
Did you know how to get the blinking 12 to stop? That was a big thing. Okay.
Do you know that was part of our business? People would come to our store.
No
if
kidding.
They had bought the radio from us, especially in the cars. So in the cars, they would come and bring their car, and we would set it up for them. So when those car audios got really digital after a little while, and through that I was working. We had a Ticketmaster hub in our store, and that's how I got it involved with Ticketmaster for over 14 years. I think I was there.
Wow.
I swear I'm still young, Robbie, but I was at places for a long periods of time.
Do you have any funny or interesting stories about Ticketmaster, or it's just, clock in 9 to 5 kind of job, or was there anything interesting that happened over your years there?
Yeah, I eventually became a contact center manager because we had emails and stuff. But my first day at Ticketmaster, we had Celine Dion tickets on sale. And as you could probably imagine, in a French Canadian area, that is, the queen, right? She is our queen, and she remains our queen to this day. And it was the first event that we put online, and people tend to forget that online ticketing has only been around for maybe 20 years.
Yeah, right.
And as you can imagine, Robbie, the whole thing crashed. On
your first day on the job.
on my first day. Now,
Oh my
that part
God.
didn't have to do with me, but we're in a smaller town. I mean, it was in Ottawa at that point, so it wasn't,
Mhm.
but it wasn't Toronto or it wasn't New York City where we had mega call centers.
Sure.
So you had to do whatever you had to do. So my job was to literally buy tickets. So basically print tickets in the back and buy tickets in order to make sure that once the queue unfroze, that we'd
Aha.
have stuff. So we'd have to call. It was just a
Oh my
nightmare, but it was
God.
like that for a few years. And then maybe 5 years after that, people were basically just buying online. So it took
Aha.
a while for the fine tuning, but yeah, those first few times were amazing. And yeah, sometimes you'd have all nighters where you're just working all night during an on
Wow.
sale. But those were the greatest. Whenever the stress was the highest was the time that I loved the most, just
Oh,
because,
okay.
you just lose your mind and you just tell
Hmm.
everyone, just let's just have fun with it,
Right. And
buying,
in a sense
buying,
that that proves true till today in your current
right.
job as well. Same attitude.
Yeah. Because this industry is a little nuts too. So,
Yeah. Definitely 24/7
yeah,
as well.
you just have to forge on. Yeah, something I always tell my team, just we relax. It's
Yeah.
yes, something happens. All right, it sucks. I
Hmm.
might yell at you, but 2 seconds later, we're fine. We're good to go.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
So you've always been like a numbers and a stats guy. So what is it that you find so interesting about number crunching? And I'm kind of wondering, did that manifest itself in your life in other ways beyond like just professionally and the stuff you went into, but being into numbers, has that, been something interesting came of that in your life?
I mean, my love for numbers. I remember first hearing about what an ERA was and not
Hmm.
understanding it, and going through and figuring out what the ERA was, and then basically doing that for every single baseball stat.
Oh,
I had
wow.
this computer that didn't have a memory, so basically I had to type stuff in, but it wouldn't
Huh.
save what I had. So then I'd have to write it all down. So
Uh-huh.
I'm sure it does, Robbie. I'm sure, I get obsessed with checking if I'm, going anywhere for business. I'm obsessed with checking, you know, f- even when I'm not, I'm looking at prices and thinking, okay, why is this high right now? So a lot
Right.
of that stuff I get obsessed with, but I'm sure that a lot more numbers come into mind. I sadly have that memory that has like numbers in the brain where,
Uh-huh.
someone will say something. Oh, that was January 16th, right? And they're
Yep.
like, why do you remember that?
Right.
Sadly, I'd rather not. I'd rather that. I'd rather have another memory. The older you get, I remember turning 40 and going, all right, I actually, I used to self-proclaim I probably know, when it comes to stats, the most in poker. And I'm like,
Right.
I don't anymore. Like,
Mm.
my memory's rough now. I'll have to,
There's
it'll
also
take me
so much
longer
more
to
to
get it.
remember.
Right. That's
Yeah.
true. But it takes me a little longer. Usually it's not like, who won the Borgata in 2004. Like, I don't know, but then you'll give me a hint. I'm like, all right, so it's this and that and this and
Right.
that. So a lot of puzzle. I'm like, oh, so it was, I can't tell you. I don't know. Alan Gearing. It's a safe answer, but probably
Okay.
not.
Good guess. Good
Yeah,
guess.
we'll see.
We'll test that ever so slightly a little bit later. Hashtag
Oh,
foreshadowing. Um,
got it.
okay, I thought that's one you'd appreciate. Um, you said you really started getting into card games, really started getting into poker. Did you ever see yourself sort of as wanting to be a professional player, or, I want to get involved somehow, work in it, be in the industry? I mean, it's a relatively tiny industry, and especially in the 1990s when you're watching it on TV in Canada, it was, minuscule. So like, how
Yeah.
did you sort of see yourself fitting into something poker related?
Yeah, I always had, I always loved, reporting and all that stuff. But also, there was still a love for broadcasting. And
Hmm.
when Joe Seabock started his little venture at Poker Road, or in all that's what the names were before then,
Right.
that really really piqued my curiosity, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to
Uh-huh.
do. I had started discovering podcasts. I don't even know if they were called podcasts back then when they were doing it, but that's when I started figuring out anyone can do this, and
Mm.
anyone can have a voice. And I figured that out way before I should have been as smart as these TikTokers who are making millions just doing a dance. I should have thought of that. But that's what they, I assume, maybe they just like to dance and suddenly people look at them, but I
Right.
assume that's what they understand. And I think the younger generation understands this. Anyone can do something, and if it's
Mhm.
interesting, people are going to listen. And even if it's not, just have fun doing it. Even if 5 people listen to your podcast, that's amazing. Those are 5 people. And if someone's in Europe listening, if you're in Canada, that's cool. So it was really that really was the thing. I wanted to do podcasting and poker, and I wanted to get involved, but I also loved, and still do, obviously, races and player of the years and all that stuff. So I'd started my own website, and that's where I started. But it got to a point where it was, I would work a 50-hour job and then 30 to 40 hours doing this. So
I know the
it
feeling.
was a lot
Yeah.
of work. Yeah. It was a crazy amount of work, but I loved it. I just
Awesome.
loved collecting, all the data. Yes, I guess back then I used to take my data from the Hendon mob. So I guess I have to be honest about that. But I guess I run the joint now, so I can excuse myself. But
Exactly.
things were different then. But yeah, I would always get excited to see how many points is this guy going to get. And
Right.
when I really got into it, it was a Sorel Mitzi Thomas Marchese race. They were winning every single tournament, and every tournament they were playing, there was changes. So I got involved there. Then Jeff Walsh at Quad Jacks reached out to me and said, "Hey, I love your website. Let's get you on once a week on my show, and let's talk about poker rankings and what's
Right.
upcoming in the poker world." I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. So
That's so cool.
my spot was at 12:15 a.m. every Thursday. So, and I would have to go, I had to be in work at 6 a.m. at that point. So there was no sleeping between Thursday and Friday, but that's always the day where it's fine if you don't sleep, right? You're always excited for
Right.
the weekend. So
Casual Friday. And if
Right.
if you love what you're doing, you don't care what time it is. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Perfect.
And
Great
you even
answer.
had your own little podcast, Poker, eh? The Canada Poker Show.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. My buddy Evie Hero, who's a big online player back in Canada. And yeah, we got, I think I looked, and I think it might have been 9 years ago that I interviewed Chrissy B. So that was
Wow,
cool.
it
That was
goes
my
that
first.
far back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think I checked that. I think our 10th anniversary is coming up either this year or early next year. So I'm gonna have to check that, but I'm gonna have to have Chrissy B on, one of my oldest friends in poker. But yeah, that was great. I mean, through that we got to interview legends like Greg Mueller and Gavin Smith. I mean,
Right.
as you know, if I was such a fan of Poker Road, I mean, having Gavin Smith on, I remember crying my eyes out before, just being so nervous. And it's hilarious when you think about it, being nervous for Gavin Smith, who's just a great human being and just
Sure.
loves life. He's not going to give you a hard time, but
Mhm.
I would get more nervous then than I do now. But I got really nervous for every time I would do Poker A. But yeah, that was great. I miss that. I really miss my start in poker because it was just the best. You didn't have, no one. It's Poker A. It's not like we're trying to reach millions
Right.
of people. We're just doing a fun show, and if people listen to, great. If not, we don't really care. I had some wild interactions with Matthew Marafiati back then. One
Sure.
wild interview in particular where I don't think he was all himself, but we got to keep touch after that for a long time. And I'm the kind of guy, I don't like to beat on people when they're down. So we've had many long discussions. Me trying to help him out. And sadly, I don't know
Beautiful.
where Matt is and what's up with him. I hope he's alive and well.
Right.
But he's had some rough moments. But those moments were cool to be on a podcast and then be on the phone with a guy until 3 a.m. just saying, hey,
Right.
life is cool. This is great. And, also trying to make sure you're not exploiting, because I felt that at some point, because he was on, he would want to come on. And I was like, now I feel bad that it's almost like I'm trying to, make him say something that's going to be, bad and then get him in
Right.
trouble. And I didn't want that. I had enough. I think my third show, we had a lawsuit on our hands. So
Oh,
it's a long time ago,
yikes.
involving
Wow. Okay.
involving Full Tilt Poker of things. Not them,
R.I.P.
but an
Full Tilt
organization.
Poker. Yeah.
Right, an organization in Montreal that was doing a charity poker tournament, and suddenly the funds went away. So that company sued
How
us.
about that?
So, and Full
Well,
Tilt
it's
did
good.
well. Full Tilt did cover back
Right.
then for those people. But so just so you know, to be clear, Full Tilt did not sue me. But that was weird. I'm like, I work at an electrical company. I'm a purchaser, and I'm getting sued by
Right.
by a company. Like,
What
how's
is this
work?
poker world, right?
Yeah, what's going on?
It's good to have fun memories of those early days, and also kind of
Yeah.
helps you remember, where did I come from to reach the point that I'm at right now.
Exactly.
Of course, shout out to Chrissy B, Kristen Bicknell, who appeared here on the CardsChat podcast, episode number 37. Always good to give a shout out to the older episodes. We got dozens of them, guys. Go ahead and listen, and you can also watch it on YouTube right after you finish this show if you haven't already. So Eric, of course, you're the president of the GPI Hendon Mob. You didn't start out as the president. How did you start out working for the wonderful organization we all know and love?
It was weird. It was my old friend Marco Valero, and he was working with Alex in the project when Alex Dreyfus had purchased the GPI,
Uh-huh.
and said, I have this guy Eric, and I'm sure he'd be a great asset for you.
How about
And
that?
funny enough, my mom, who's a financial advisor, she's a banker, or I guess a retired banker and financial advisor. I went to her one day and I said, I want to, I want to try this. I want to make a go of this. I want to gamble and try to make it work in poker. And I was
Not as a player.
sure,
Right.
not as a player, not as a player.
Right.
No, definitely in the media. I didn't know exactly at that point what I wanted to do, but
Right.
if someone would have given me a job, I was in. So, on a I think a Thursday, I had a meeting with her, and she said, "Yeah, you should do it." And I was shocked. I was probably early 30s. I don't remember exactly how old I was. She said, "You should do it." And the Friday night my time, because I know Alex never sleeps, I just get a friend request from him, and he says, can you chat? I'm like, can we go on Skype? I'm like, yes. And he offered me a job. So I was unemployed for literally 24 hours or less
Oh
than
my
24
goodness.
hours. And I wasn't even
Wow.
unemployed. I hadn't given my 2 weeks notice yet. So
My goodness.
I ended up giving 3 weeks notice, and just people were like, why are you leaving? You're doing what? Like, and my first job was to but to, I guess, be the editor for the Fantasy Poker Manager stuff. So my first thing I got to do was talk to Jake Cody about his lineup and
Nice.
and all those things, and made my own lineup where I picked Vanessa Russo, who went deep, and picked Tim Riley, who was out of nowhere pro that no one knew, and he went really deep in Deauville. So
And you had to kind of craft this role because it didn't exist, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, any of us didn't know what we're doing. Like with the fantasy manager stuff, it just came out, and it was, people really loved it at first, and that was great. But we didn't exactly know what was going on. And we knew, the way it was built, for me, because, for me, fantasy, the football manager is not a thing for me. So for me as a North American, I knew that, boy, North America, I don't know if this is going to work. And unfortunately, we were trying to change things, but it just commanded so much effort and so much, and resources and all that stuff. So
right.
we, abandoned the project. But by that point, I'd already, gone up in the company pretty quickly. We're very small and very few people in there. So whatever we could do to help was what we were doing. So basically, although my job was fantasy poker manager editor, I never really, to be fair, I think I've never signed a contract since with the company. So I think technically I'm still the fantasy poker manager. I'm still required to come up with 3 articles a week. Is what my job is. So,
that's hilarious. Well, shout out to Alex Dreyfus.
That's right.
No longer in poker, but definitely someone who poker has a fond place in his heart, and obviously continues to make sure that the GPI Hendon mob operates. So that's a good thing. Right. Those who are listening can't see you've got this Las Vegas background in yes. behind you. You are a proud Canadian, but you're kind of a fish out of water in Las Vegas. And I think you also had a bit of a stint in Malta. I think so. I'm not sure. What is the job? What prompted your move from Canada?
Yeah, I mean, the Malta thing was just, we were doing the GPL. So I never really became a Malta resident, but I was there. Basically, I was there 6 months less a day because that's what Canada allows you to do. So, so I would do like 3-month chunks basically for a few years there. And just, Alex likes to have, it's funny because things are changing so much in the position he is now at Socios, where the company is so big that they have employees everywhere now. But back then, Alex really liked his small team to be in one place. I think, the best Alex was during the World Series when he was here with me and Ophélie, with Ophélie and I, Ophélie Lafuge, who also was a major part of the company for the longest time. And the 3 of us would spend hours together just, brainstorming and coming up with ideas. And I think that's where Alex shines the best, is in a group setting, but people have to be there. He likes, to make sure everyone is touched and to touch everyone. So, I guess I shouldn't say it that way nowadays, but you know what I mean? Like,
I do.
God, I hit my brain's like, you shouldn't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. But you know what I mean? So
yeah, I do. And I remember seeing you guys. There was a GPI booth in the Rio hallways once upon a time. The 3 of you were there. It's there was definitely a major presence, and of course everyone knows who you are, who the organization is.
Yeah, and I think it was either 8 or 9 years this summer. So I guess in May would have been our 8th or 9th year here
Wow.
at the Rio if we'd still done that. So yeah, the first booth was, I think it's 8 or 9 years ago. I forget now. But my arriving in Vegas, Alex wanted me to either move to Malta or Vegas, but I was saying no a lot.
Hmm.
But then I met my wife, and I said yes, I
Ah,
will go right away. So not if not for that, I don't know if I'd be in Vegas. I really
hmm.
like where I'm from, and I like that everyone, even if they've gone away from my hometown, everyone's back. So I do miss that I'm the only guy from the group, from since we're 3 years old, that's not there, which
Hmm.
makes it fun too when you come back. It's just great times,
Right.
and you just love being with them. But yeah, I met my wife, and we got married a year and a half ish after we met, and then I became a Vegas resident, and
Wonderful.
got my green card now, and
And your Golden Knights tickets. They
that's
go hand
right.
in hand.
And 4th of July is the day I can apply for my citizenship. So
Hey,
I
congratulations.
hope to
Very
become a dual
nice.
citizen. I want to have those two passports.
Beautiful.
People ask me, you're going to have to renege on your Canadian passport. And I said, then I wouldn't do it if that's the case. I will never lose my Canadian passport,
Right.
because that's, to
But
me, it's what it is, right? It is, to me, if I lose that, then I'm no longer Canadian, and that would
sure.
never work out for me.
I think that follows in the footsteps of a certain Mr. Negreanu who did the same thing as well, also still
Exactly.
Canadian and American as well.
That's right.
Yeah, and me, I'm not Canadian, but
That's
Israeli
right.
American, same thing. You gotta do both. Yeah.
We'll send you a Canadian passport, Robbie. You'll get one
Thank
of
you.
us too.
I'm sure there's like a big smiley face on it because you guys are all
That's right.
so
That's
friendly
right.
there. um, Eric, I said, no, everyone knows the Hendon mob. Everyone, is involved. Of course, you always, it's like a part of the poker vernacular. Oh, just
Yeah.
check up his Hendon mob stat. Check it, what are the GPI rank? Everyone knows. Poker is still kind of like a niche, a little bit of a small industry. So of course, there's that camaraderie within the industry. We all know each other, say hi to each other, that sort of thing. And of course, in a good way, there's also plenty of friendly competition
Mhm.
among both the poker rooms, whether they're live and the online operators as well. Hendon Mob GPI, you guys are in a very unique and special position because you work with everyone, and it's
Correct.
amazing. And I think that's really wonderful. I'm wondering, has it ever sort of been, for lack of a better term, a challenge to kind of sort of stay neutral, or maybe like have you guys ever sort of been put in a position where you have to take sides or something like that? Because it's not necessarily always so easy to just work with everybody.
Yeah, I can't think of a situation where we were, our backs were against the wall and we had to make a decision that would,
Hmm.
please one and not please the other.
Hmm.
What we do end up having situations with clients or partners, as we love to call them, with our partners that, one will come up with something, we'd like to do this. That's actually a great idea, but they need to understand that we're then going to offer that to our other clients further down the line.
Aha.
Further down the line, but not right away, because what happens is that then when that happens with one partner, the other partner says, "Hey, why did you offer it to them?" Or
Right.
"What's going on here?" Like, no, we didn't actually. They came up with it, but give us until, usually with our major partners, we have year-long deals, and then we'll add that to their next contract. Um,
Nice.
and to be fair, I think as much these guys, of course, all compete with each other. We saw the recent news where GG became number one
Yep.
in the market, and Stars number two.
For cash games, right?
With us, the people we deal with are great, and they've never put us in situations where, and to be honest, Robbie, we have made decisions. When someone comes up with an idea, even if it's a great idea, if it does affect our other partners, it could be with page views, or maybe we'll see their ads a little less because of this deal. We wouldn't do that, and that's
Hmm.
something that, not to be all high and mighty, I don't want people to think that of us, but we do take that very seriously. It's never, and it's not, I know that's one of your mottos as well, or I guess a modified version of your motto, but it's not worth it to us to get $50,000 if it's going to piss off my partners that I've had for 8
Exactly.
years. If I ever piss off Poker Stars, who are there for us in our, biggest moments in need, they've always been a great partner to us. They've always participated, in major events with us. If I would have been pissed at them because they decided to no longer sponsor the awards,
Right.
well, then that would become an issue.
Hmm.
That said, had another another one of our partners stepped up and said, we want to, sponsor the awards, then I wouldn't think twice about it. And if Stars had an issue with that, then that would be something I'd have to deal with, because I wouldn't think that's fair. So I guess we just try to be fair. But again, we're just, I think a lot of times, and I think that's used to happen during the poker boom, that people would just not sell their souls, because that's a bit too much, but would take on some money knowing that the ramifications could be huge. And in my world, it just doesn't make any sense. If the partner is a month old or the partner is 7 years old, it's the same thing. I want to take care of them both.
Right. And I mean,
so
it just, in the word itself, you said it right when you started your answer here. It's not clients, they're partners. And, there's a certain way to treat a partner. And, that's what I've personally always loved about what you guys do. And then I do think that the whole industry certainly respects that. And, kudos to all of you guys for, always being on the up and up. And, it's, we're lucky to have, GPI, THM in our industry.
And if I can add, Robbie, we're genuinely, we have a yearly contract with the Banco Casino, for example. We're genuinely proud to have them as a partner. It doesn't matter if their casino doesn't get the same fields that a online W Coop event will get. Of course, that really doesn't matter. We actually find that to be even cooler. At a certain point, if most of the big boys and big girls deal with us, at a certain point, the others will feel the need to do it as well. So it's not like, they'll have to do it. They have to work with us. They don't have to, but you know what I mean? Whereas the Banco Casino could spend their money somewhere else. They could definitely spend, and they spend it with us, and we appreciate that, and we love them for it. So that's and whenever we get new clients, we get excited about that, and we try to take care of them as much as we take care of, again, as I said, the bigger boys and girls.
And at the end of the day, if you're getting new clients, that means the industry is growing. So that's a net good for everybody, It's good stuff. I said we talk a little bit about the pandemic. We got to do what we do in the poker felt as well. We'll switch gears a little. Obviously, as you had alluded to before, the pandemic, when there's no live poker, there's no live poker results to report. And thankfully, blessedly, we're really coming out of that dark period in most places around the developed world. So I'm kind of wondering, though, to have weathered the storm, to still be around, obviously, 16 months later, how did you and your team pivot?
We've done a few things. And it was bad for a while. And you mentioned Alex Dreyfus and the Media Rex that owns GPI and Hendon. They were great to us in 2020. It was, we were so proud in 2019 to actually turn the most minuscule of profits. And that's the goal here. The goal is not to make, the goal before used to be, we want to make money, but now the goal is to make sure that my 5-6 people on my staff get paid, and that we provide great service for everyone. And that's it, and that's the mantra from the higher ups. And
that's a huge thing. That's not a, just a by the way kind of statement. That's a huge thing that people ought to realize. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's just that it's impossible, Robbie. We need to hire people. People just think that websites just run by themselves, and just the database of just the amount of events that we're getting from Korea now, for example. That's almost one of my guys doing that every day of the week.
Wow.
Just with Korea. So so we have to add more people. So the thought is that it's to provide a service. And back in the Alex days, he had grander ideas because he was trying to make money, that was his, and we realized that doesn't necessarily make sense for us. As long as we can cover the bills, that's great. If we can make a few more dollars so I can give to my staff, that's even better. But we're aware of that. But in 2020, obviously that was really a big struggle for us. So, we just try to challenge ourselves. One thing that we kept on hearing about were these big online tournaments, the big ones, not the regular day-to-day ones, but the big ones where real names are known.
Yes.
And I know GG and the WSOP were the first to really, Party Poker actually was first.
Correct.
And then GG and WSOP started publishing real names. So I reached out to Lance Bradley, the president and editor-in-chief at Pocket Fives, because we do have a great relationship with Pocket Fives. We still share a lot of our data on each site, and try to get wanted his blessing. I would not have done it if Pocket Fives would have said, no, you cannot add these things. That'd be like us adding the World Series main event, or that'd be coming after the other's business. So Lance was gracious, and the whole team at Pocket Fives are great at working with us at first, and it's still not 100%. We still, it's still very day to day. Like, do we add this? Yes. Do we add that? No, that makes no sense. So it's still not going to be a full time. We're not in the business of online poker. It's not what we're not interested in it. It's not what we want to do. But we do agree that when you're looking at someone like Limitless, it's good to see that he's got, some major results live and online as well. So, that's important to see as well. And at the same time, Robbie, I mentioned partners. GG Poker is excited that they get to now see their names and their little logo even more on our website. So, that's important. Same for if Stars ever want to start publishing real names, we'll do that for them as well, as we do for Party and all that. So, there's that too, is it did, the way we looked at it was that it benefits the players, it benefits our partners, and it benefits me right now that I can give some work to my team. So that's important as well. And then the other thing we did was, I don't think this would have happened if Alex was still at the top of the GPI, but as I've said before in this interview, my passion is radio broadcasting, it's podcasting. So we decided to start a podcast network. And, I just didn't want it to be one podcast. And I knew that I had talented people. I didn't want it to be me just exclusively too, because it does, as you know, these take a lot of time. And I think you're a little obsessed like I am that, it's not as easy as checking someone's Hendon page. It's going in it and seeing what can I find in there that I can bring up so that the guests can go, wow, that's pretty cool that you found that, or
you haven't said it yet, Eric.
That.
So
that's right.
Hopefully we'll have a nugget or two for you.
That's right. We'll try.
But yeah, we want to create. We're storytellers, and we want to create interesting stories that folks, oh, I want to listen to this. This is, they ask good questions. They get good answers. So
they asked something. I've listened to Chrissy B 7 times, but Robbie asked her 2 or 3 things that even she didn't know, or she was like, wow, that's a great question. You stumped me there. I always get to say that I'm honored when Veronica Brill was on, like, twice during the interview. She's like, man, you really do your homework. Like,
nice.
You're saying stuff that I said that I don't remember that I said, but I believe you that I said it. So I sent her the link, so everything was fine. So yeah, we started a podcast network, and we just didn't want it to be just one show. We wanted to have a few different shows. And when I told the boys that I was thinking about doing this, was actually 2 years ago. So way before we started at our yearly conference that we have the whole team in November goes to Malta every year. We have our summit, and we talk about, a lot of great ideas and such. And going on the plane home, I thought of 2 things, and I actually still had Wi-Fi, so I was able to text the guys right before. And the one thing was the trophy for the players' choice, where the players decided who the toughest opponent was that they played in 2019.
That was a good one.
Everyone loved that too. Yeah, because it's just a cool feature to put it on the players. It's a bit like the NHL does it, and I know, and that's always controversial that, wow, the players think that the best player isn't what the media thinks or the fans think.
Right. It's kind of like what they did the first World Series, where, you can't vote for themselves after but they had to vote. Who was the best player of the series?
That's right.
Yeah.
And for those who want to know, Steven Chidwick won. So he was the, what we asked the players is, who's your most difficult opponent? Not who's the best. I guess it could be the best as well, but the opponent you fear, the most feared opponent when you sit down, and Steven Chidwick won by a mile. So that's a heck
of a feather to put in one's cap also.
It's a cool trophy. Yeah, it's a cool trophy to hold for sure. And then the second thing was a podcast on first flags. And that's actually not a new concept. I used to write an article on the Hendon Mob about 7-8 years ago, where I would say, what is Mike McDonald's first flag? What is Daniel Negreanu's first flag? And it didn't work. And I had to stop it because, Alex and I would always look at the numbers and say, no one's reading this, no one cares. I was like, all right, well, I'll stop doing this and I'll try to do something else. I was always trying to find something, that we could get some readers on our site. So that's actually how it started. But then knowing that to hear the player tell the story, that makes more sense. And for those that haven't listened to it, First Flag is literally, as as the name says, we talk with our the best poker players in the world, and they let us know about their first flag experience, the first time they had a registered cash on the Hendon Mob. And some cool stuff, Robbie, that's coming from it is that we already knew that Dominic Nietzsche, for example, likes to flag hunt. But actually everyone does. Like a lot of people, will go. Marie Konnikova says, I want to go to Italy so I can get an Italian flag, and not necessarily to add to the flags. It's just I want an Italian flag on my profile. Like, that's
Yeah.
cool to me. That's my favorite country. That's where I want to go and visit. Maria also said that when she cashed, and we had this story a lot, she asked, "Is this going to go on my Hendon mob?"
Right,
And
right,
she actually she cashed at Planet Hollywood the first time, and they said, "No, we don't report dailies."
right.
And then when she cashed at the Aria said, "Yes, we do report dailies." And she told Eric Seidel, "I'm going to have my first Hendon mob score."
That's a big deal. It's like that first dollar you make in the store. You got to put it on the wall and frame it. Absolutely.
I should mention at this point too that Hans Kleinsman, our good friend, is going to be listening to this, and he does not have a Hendon mob profile. We just
That makes two of us, Eric. I don't have one either. I don't
Robbie,
play enough.
wow.
I play like 1 or 2 tournaments a year, maybe. I'm a cash game guy, so
Yeah. You're also a mixed games guy, so it's not like there's mixed games festivals around the world, right? So
yeah.
when you go somewhere, you probably, when you go to an EPT stop or something, you're probably having to play, smaller no limit tournaments. So yeah, that makes
I also
sense
stick
too.
to the cash games because that, you can always just go whenever you need to go. And often I'll still play those 10, 12-hour sessions, which are amazing. But if it's a tournament, you're locked into it. It's when you need to be places, you need to be able to go. So that's usually
Hans also has never cashed in a cash game ever. It's really bad.
Hi, Hans. We love you, Hans.
Really.
Hans is the king. Well, Eric, I'm not only a poker podcast host, I'm also a fan. I enjoy First Flag. Hold on, let's see if I remember all the names. You have the GPI interview, you got Heads Up for Rolls, and
The Poker Show, Robbie.
the Poker Show, of course, the Poker Show. So I enjoyed a lot of them. They're really, really great, and they accompany me while I do my exercising. I'm wondering though, so you guys are getting busier. So live poker, it's coming back. We got results. There's a lot more of that work that wasn't there. That's why you started the podcast. So can we expect these podcasts to continue? How will you guys sort of handle the extra workload?
Yeah, it definitely will continue. I think one thing we'll have to realize, and so like First Flag, we've had every single week. We're up to 30 some weeks now in a row. And I do feel that it's because players are available right now. So I think that's going to change. I don't know if we'll be able to do one every week. There might be times where you have 4 in the bank and other times where we'll struggle because everyone's traveling or the person we want to talk to during the World Series. I think it might be a challenge. We might have to put some in the bank and spread them out. So I'm not going to commit that we're going to have podcasts every week because I don't know if we can do it just because of the players' schedules. But definitely, I think the Poker Show, for example, is something, and Roland always says it, it's just 3 guys talking about poker. It's amazing. It's fun to do. So that I think would be something, especially as we get busier, right? A lot of golf. Yeah. A lot of golf talk. Yeah.
I had to tease you a little bit there.
I think Anthony Charter is making more money betting on golf than he is at the GPI Hendon mob. So he can continue to talk about golf all he wants. He's doing well for himself.
Yep.
But I think that's a show that might be a fill-in. So if we don't have anything, then we'll do a poker show because we do also talk about results. So the more results that come in, hopefully at some time, Robbie, during this year, maybe in the next 7 years, we'll have a GPI POI to talk about again and GPI races. So, it's not going to be 7 years for those listening. So soon, catch us soon with that stuff. But, that stuff will be able to just, have, it's almost like we're creating our own stories, when it comes to POI or players of the month, stuff like that. That's easy for us to talk about and do. And again, we're talking about, stats on Hendon mob and GPI, and, we'll never run out of those. So I think the Poker Show will become more of the flagship one. And then the others will try to, fit in as best we can.
Very cool. And I hope to continue listening to them. It's great stuff. Of course, like I said, guys, you got to go through all the dozens of episodes of the CardsChat podcast first, then tune in to the GPI podcast, THM podcast network. Really, it's some great stuff. I'm a big fan, not just saying it. Didn't just research it for the interview. I really am a genuine fan. It's good stuff.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Well, you can't interview Eric Danis without talking at least a bit about the Global Poker Awards. So it's something you and your team, I know you think about it all year long. You prep for it months in advance. Awards night is obviously exceptionally special, but let's go beyond the fun of getting all dolled up and handing out the trophies. At its core, Eric, why do you believe the existence of the GPA, the Global Poker Awards, is important?
I think just the fact of celebrating our game. I think it's the one night of the year that, everyone comes together. Everyone in poker is a competitor. So I think it adds to the narrative of what we do for all of us for a living in any category. Robbie, you have friends, but you're also competitors, right? What you do
Yeah.
is something that someone else does. So, and again, it doesn't mean that it has to be negative at all. And it's also, I always take pride, and I've stolen this from Alex. We take pride in the fact that in a world where poker is usually played by people that are in t-shirts and shorts and flip-flops and disheveled hair because, tournament started at 10, they thought it started at 11.
Right.
We get to brag that one night a year, we have the most beautiful people in our
That,
industry there.
that is
And
certainly true.
it's true, and it's awesome to see everyone dressed up.
Yeah.
And it really is cool. And it also, I think, legitimizes the game. And funny enough, we've had a lot of conversations recently. I won't tell you with who, but with people. And they talk about the awards. They talk about the awards the same way they would talk about the World Series of Poker main event or a Poker Go studio event, because they do understand that it's important, and it's also being discussed from just stuff that people I've talked to outside of poker, because they're like, well, it doesn't matter what it is, it's still a ceremony.
Yeah.
When we were in LA, we used to be either the week before or after the Oscars. So there was that, vibe in LA that it was, awards week or awards month, because they had the Golden Globes before and
Right.
the Grammys. And so, it was cool to be part of that, as well. And I think, having them in Vegas is magic. Yeah, man. As much as I love Los Angeles, I was there for my birthday just a week ago, and boy, I miss LA. And I stayed at the Andaz just for good memories. And I went to visit the room just to show Casey, my wife, because she had not been there.
Nice.
And that room was probably the most glamorous room. I don't know if you remember, Robbie, but one side was downtown LA, the other side was the Hollywood Hills.
It's beautiful. And the roof also is beautiful.
And the
view
roof,
from there.
Yeah, it just makes
pool,
you feel.
Right?
It makes you feel like a special kind of person. So
right.
So I guess part of it is the glamour of it. It is nice. And I don't think we should be shocked that the concept comes from Alex and Ophélie, two French people, and the French tend to do galas very, very well. So, I'm just happy that I was able to take over from them in a weird situation when I was, battling my cancer, and Alex was pregnant and Ophélie was no longer with the company. And that's where I have a lot of love for Roland Boothby and Hans Kleinsman, who came to LA, had no clue what they were about to get into. And I just had them work. And, I unfortunately could only work a few hours a day. I'd been operated on like 7 days before. So, they really carried the ball and didn't know what the hell they were doing. And but it's just special moments from them.
It's a testament to, that these aren't, when you get into this industry, you don't just do it to get a paycheck. This is something that you love, something you're passionate about. And, obviously that's the type of people you guys all are. And it really, because you have that shared passion, there's that family feel of like, of course we cover for each other, and we'll take this on. We love it. And again, that stuff is apparent from the work that you guys do and the appreciation you all hold in our hearts.
And there's testimonials too. Nothing makes me feel better. In poker, as you know, most of the players, I don't want this award, but there's two things from that. I think maybe it's more of an industry thing, but if you ask Andrew Nemi, if you ask Brad Owen, if you ask Tana, if you ask the Run Good Poker Series people, the winning awards have open opportunities for them. Brad said that he could sell himself as a award-winning poker vlogger. That's pretty impressive. Tana, the same thing. Suddenly casinos started calling that didn't call before. That's really are amazing stories for them. And for those that receive trophies, and they're like, oh, whatever, I don't want a trophy. And it happens too when they win, right? They win in poker. They don't want the trophy. They want the money, and that's great. But I always tell people, don't forget that your aunt might be on Facebook and going, oh my God, my niece is a poker champion. It could be an award from us. It could be a World Series bracelet. I think that sometimes we might forget about that for people, if you're from a small hometown, that's cool to them that you're in the local paper saying, hey, that's my guy. I went to school with this guy. We used to be best buddies. We used to get drunk every weekend. He's a freaking global poker award winner. That's amazing.
That is a huge thing. I agree with you.
There's that side. So, and it's funny because a lot of players will say, publicly, oh, I don't want the trophy, but it's funny, Robbie, everyone comes in and says, hey, are you going to ship me my trophy? So let's see what happens. A lot of them is for the moms, right? The moms want them down to
sure, absolutely. It's important.
It's a beautiful piece of hardware. So it's not like it's an ugly trophy. So
I concur.
Yeah.
That's good
Yeah,
stuff.
you would know. Where's yours, by the way?
It's right on my night. Oh, I know. I'm in my wife's office. It's on my nightstand
Okay.
right next to where I sleep. It's
I like it.
well, that's
I like
one.
it.
It's the charity initiative of the year. So that was a very special one. So
Is it true that you've angled it so the sun wakes you every morning? You don't need any crown. It's the trophy that wakes you up every morning. The
no, my
gold.
actual son wakes me in the morning. So
There you go. Yeah,
there
that makes
you go.
sense. Yeah.
You issued, talking about Vegas, and having the awards there, you issued an unprecedented announcement sharing that the next 3 Global Poker Awards ceremonies, 2022, 23, 24, will take place from the Poker Go studio in Las Vegas. So first of all, congratulations. Obviously, it's, locking in a contract like that, and it must just feel wonderful and take a lot of stress and like logistics and stuff off of your shoulders.
Yeah, first off, I think a 3-year contract in our industry is a record. It's rare that we see 3-year contracts in poker, so
Yeah.
we're happy just for that. But there's a story where one year where you were at awards in LA, that award ceremony was put together 7 weeks, 8 weeks in advance, and you can't do those things. It really, and again, I was battling cancer, so it was just awful. But it's just that we didn't have our sponsor, we didn't have
Right.
a place to go, and that's the assurance that we have from Poker Go. And to Sam Simmons three summers ago now, that said, let's have lunch. And he asked, what do you want to talk about? And I said, what do you want to talk about? And then we both said awards, and I was like, oh, thank God. So that was cool. So we thought they'd want to do in LA, but obviously they have this beautiful studio
Right.
they'd like to highlight. So it's tremendous to have a partner like that, Robbie, and to know that, when I say that we work on the awards 12 months of the year, it's true. But this year it's even better for us because we can really work, because there were some things I would refuse the staff to do, because just in case there's no awards, I don't want them to start spending their time looking for articles of the year or all of that stuff. It's sort of a waste of time. Again, not in the end of things, but it is. They have other things to do this year. They didn't. So we have long lists for now. But it's great. And to be at the Poker Go studio, I mean, this show on TV makes a big difference for us. It really, it's double what we ever anticipated. And Poker Go have been great at making it available to everyone, not just subscribers.
Yes,
that might change this year. I don't know. They haven't made that decision yet, but and if they change that, good for them. And it's up to them. It's their product. They're allowed to do what they want with it, and I'm fine with it. But it's been cool that the first 2 years have been open to everyone, and everyone can see what it is.
Yeah,
it's something we work every year to on the television product. We know that it's not simple. It's not the Oscars. It's not. There's no band. There's no. So we always work, and Pat McMath and Maurice Gondani, Dan Gotti, and all those geniuses, I'm sure, will come up with even more to make it even a better television product. And my mission this year is actually make it a better product at the event, because in LA it was easier because it was just an event that was live streamed with one camera. We couldn't. That wasn't my concern. My concern was the people in the hall, and now my concern needs to be a bit more on the people in the studio. I want that experience to be really cool for them. So finding other things and finding a better level of volume, because it's a little low in there. Stuff like that. Just stuff we're working on to make sure that those coming will want to come again, and will actually appreciate the. I think they do. I think everyone that comes and experiences the awards.
I think it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Speak from one experience, and I hope to have more in the future as well.
You bet.
You got to stop having them on Friday nights, though. You can't do that.
I know. I let poker go now.
Eric, so we've gotten to what I think is kind of the fun portion. We'll see if we can stump you. Did you know that you are not the only Eric Danis listed on the Hendon mob?
Not only do I know, but there's also someone on PokerStars that won a Sunday Millions that had the name Eric Danis, and he said he had the name Eric Danis because of me. And this is a long time ago, but because of my voice. But here's the thing. It was irritating to him, so he decided to name his account after mine. Hey, he won a Sunday Millions. So funny, Robbie. I woke up the next morning and to tons of texts like, "Oh my God, you just won the Sunday Millions!" I'm like, no. And I was like, "No, I'm in America right now. I would not be able to win a Sunday Millions in any way, shape, or form."
Okay.
Against the terms and conditions.
Of course.
And yes, there is an Eric Danis in Montreal that plays at Playground, that has actually won at Playground. So ironically, Denis, a very, very, not a very popular name, has at least two of us on the Hendon mob, and the other guy doing much better than I am. So.
Oh, okay. So you know my question. My question was, do you know who has the higher all-time career earnings?
No, the other Eric Danis actually is solid regular at Playground. He's a good player. So
you actually know him?
Not personally, but I do.
Okay.
Him, yeah.
Wow.
Funny enough, at the Malta event that you and I were at, so the THMC Malta, I met a Serge Denis, who's like top 10 all time in Switzerland.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, we met up after that, and yeah, great person. So yeah.
Very cool. Like, who knows what kind of doors a last name can open sometimes.
There you go.
Well, you do have 2 caches on your Hendon profile, which is, again, 2 more than I have, Eric. One in 2013, one in 2019, both at the WSOP. So we've talked, for quite a while about your love for poker. Don't you want to play a little bit more often, or is it because you're also a cash game player, or you're just not cashing in the tournaments?
No, I think that I work so much in it that I like to do something else. But I will. One thing I did say, one thing that I regret is not playing at least a tournament. When I'm on the road, and I want to do that. The boys usually do so. Like in Rajradov, I showed up in my. Robbie, I'm getting older. The jet lag is real nowadays. I used to be able to just, run up to the Malta office, no problem. But now I need a day.
Hard. Going
east is really hard. Yeah. Going west is fine. I don't have a problem with that. The worst thing about going west is I fall asleep at 9 and wake up at 5. That's fine, right? That's fine. But going east, I will spend sometimes, like in Rajradov, I went about 3 days without sleeping, and I don't like to take supplement, anything. I'm not a big believer in that stuff, and I just fear that I start liking them and start popping the sleeping pills and stuff. So, so I don't like taking those. So I do have something called Dream Water that a lot of athletes are using. Very safe, and I used it when I went to Malta last time. It actually helped me out quite a bit. I was able to have a good first night's sleep. The rest of the time was still like 3-4 hours, but it's still better than. But, that's something I want to commit to when I do go to Rajradov. I do want to play and hopefully get a check flag. And I don't want to play for flags. I'll be honest, when I play poker, I want it to be the same experience as my home games.
Nice.
I do not play for the competition. Couldn't care less.
Okay.
My tables, when I played that Colossus event, my tables were spectacular.
Oh, that's so nice.
Guys and girls just having a great time. And I really, really, really enjoyed that experience. Much better than the time before when I cashed, where I was at a table with Phil Hellmuth for most of the time. And it's not because he's not lovely, because he was actually very enjoyable. We had a lot of laughs with him, but because I was so damn nervous that Phil Hellmuth was to my right, and trying to get Joe Hiron, take a picture of me, please. I want that. And no one took a picture, so no one knew that Hellmuth was fine. But literally, to Robbie, the table to my left, I could touch. The man to my left was Phil Ivey. So I was really like, and I go, why are you guys playing 1K tournaments? Get out of my tournament. You guys don't need to play 1K tournaments. So yeah, so I played 4 events at the World Series. The first one, it might have been in 2004.
Well, that's a 50% cash rate.
Yes, 50% at the World Series. Yeah.
Wow.
So what you're saying, Robbie, is if I play a full schedule this year, I will cash in 40 events.
44.
At least. Right.
Yes.
I'll tell my wife that we're mortgaging the house.
Right, including the ladies event and the seniors event. So just
I'll get in those. Yeah, since we promote those on Hendon Mob and
there
GTI,
you go. Well, Eric, my last question for you before we move into the questions from our CardsChat community. The Hendon Mob has all sorts of rankings lists according to country, all-time tournament wins. So one of the questions we love to ask here at the CardsChat podcast is, who is the friendliest player you've ever played with at the Felt? But for you, we'll ask it a little differently. On the GPI rankings of friendliest players, if there were to be such a thing, who would be sitting at the top in your mind?
Joe would be at the top because he was actually really so nice to me when that first time I played the World Series event way back when, which again I think was 2000. Oh, sorry, the second one. So the one I cashed in, where I was playing with Hellmuth, was Adam. Is it Levy or Levi? I always forget.
Adam Levy
or Levy. Yeah, Adam Levy is always right, ruthless. And from that we forged a relationship. We're not best friends or anything, but you'll remember that I think he was
on the jury my year, right?
Right. And then one year he did a conference for us, and just because he was a great guy, and he's always said yes to me, but he was what you want from a poker pro playing in a 1K, knowing that most of the field will be amateurs. He was so nice. If someone made a mistake with chips, he would just say, "Oh, you got 500 too many here."
Wow.
Those guys, they can spot that in 2 seconds, whereas most of us wouldn't. So, I remember that situation, and one guy had busted in a terrible, terrible bad beat, and he was like, just don't worry about it. If you have $100, if you have $50, find a daily deep stack, just, find it somewhere, Planet might have one right now, Excalibur, just go have fun, because it was early in the day and that guy was crushed that he had lasted, an hour in his WSOP experience. He was really cool. So I would put him in, in my top. I won't do a number one or a number two, in my top.
Very cool.
Does it have to be professionals? Can Kevin Mathers come in there?
Oh, sure. Why not?
Or did you ask professionals? I can do professionals. It might be easier because
who's the friendliest player? That's basically what we asked. That's all
right. Yeah, Kevin Math, I think, is just a cool, nice
Math.
person. From Turning Stone, Robbie.
Yes.
# Turning Stone. That's where he got his start, just like me. As you notice, though, there's no Turning Stone cash on my profile.
Right.
That never happened.
There you go.
That never happened. Who else? Oh, I mean, if we can go from someone that's recently passed away, it's Mike Sexton. Mike Sexton makes everyone feel, just so nice.
Yep, confirmed.
He was fantastic. The best there. I think Maria Ho, who's just Maria Ho is what, I guess same for Mike, but what we should as people in poker, if you had to create the perfect poker representative, the perfect ambassador, it's Maria. Because she always says yes. She's always willing to stick her neck out on the line for, projects that aren't concrete, that aren't, they don't have $50 billion behind them. But she's also fun, and she'll take chances. She was on The Amazing Race. She's just
she was on episode number 22 of the CardsChat podcast. Just gonna put that out there.
Yeah. So, Bicknell and Ho are in front of me in your ranking, I see. All right, I get it, Robbie. Even Lon McCarron apparently was on before.
Even Lon McCarron. He was episode 42, I believe. Yes.
Second fiddle to Lon. All right, I get it. So those three are my top. Chrissy B, of course, she's just so nice to me. I'll give you a controversial one because I think people might think he's very arrogant. And I know Doug Polk thinks he's arrogant, but it's Bryn Kenny.
Oh, interesting.
Bryn Kenny is actually, I think Bryn Kenny.
You played poker with Bryn Kenny?
Well, I didn't know if you meant played. I think I did actually in a charity event.
How about
definitely
that?
Definitely played with Maria, Chrissy for sure, Adam.
Right.
Yeah, definitely played with the others. But I do remember playing with Bryn, I believe, maybe we were just trialing. It might have been when we were doing the GPI World Cup. We were trialing the event. It might have been that. But Bryn was so nice and so cool about everything. So I would put Bryn in there just because. I don't know if he's the nicest guy in poker, but because he gets that bad rap. But I think he likes that rap. I think he likes being, the lavish, outspoken Bryn Kenny. I think he likes the character. I think
as the number one all time on the money list, I think he could kind of do whatever he wants to do. But it's nice to see that he's one of the many great names that made that list of friendliest poker players. I like it a lot, Eric. Good list there. Good list. Now we turn the next segment of our show. We turn to the CardsChat community. You guys who are listening and watching to see what questions you wanted to ask our guests. Of course, we have a dedicated thread on the CardsChat forums for this. So as we announce who our future guests will be, please be sure to send in your questions. Today's questions come from two of our regulars, Crystals and Acid Burn FX. So thank you very much, guys, for sending these questions in. Crystals, we'll go with you first. Eric, being Canadian myself and a fan of many of the same teams as you, how gutted were you at the performance of the Leafs and the Raptors this season?
I'm sorry, those are out of my memory. No, I mean, the Raptors, I think we were so spoiled with the Raptors winning the NBA championship a few years ago that, I'm okay with the Raptors performance. I think it's very difficult that the Raptors now for 2 years or 1.5 years, just like the Toronto Blue Jays right now, aren't playing in their home stadium, aren't living in their homes. As much as, we make the joke that you don't want to be in Toronto in the winter.
Right.
These people live in Toronto. So
correct.
The fact that they had to, to be placed in Tampa Bay.
Mm.
It's not their homes. I don't know, for a lot of those players, they weren't able to bring all their family. Some of the kids were registered in school, so the moms had to stay back. That's really difficult. So on the Raptors, those are hard seasons. Same with the Blue Jays. It's tough. Again, I understand that most players in the NBA, well, I guess all players on the Raptors, most of them are American. And, crossing the border is a bitch. And
Sure.
it is tough for them. They've, when they travel all night from LA and they have to be, everything has to be searched and their passports and all that, that's got to be tough. But I think they might enjoy it a bit more now that they get to be back in Canada, I would assume, for the next start of the next season.
Right.
The Leafs, it's funny, Robbie, because the Montreal Canadiens, by the time this is out, might have eliminated my other team, the Vegas Golden Knights, as well. So the problem isn't the Leafs, the problem is the opponent. So being French Canadian, I should be a Montreal Canadiens fan, but I was always, I guess the good thing for me, I was always watching when I was younger, English television, English speaking television shows. And I think that's a blessing now in the sense that I don't have an accent. So that's really, important for that. Most of the people where I'm from have an accent when they speak in English. So that's a blessing. I do feel bad nowadays because I do miss French television so much, French Canadian television. So much. And there's apparently a package at some point that I'll be able to get, but my parents at home don't even know what Survivor is. They just watch French Canadian television because there's so much content. So I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, that the fact that
the Leafs,
I've always
the
been
Toronto teams.
Right. So I've been abused already because the Leafs have lost. But as a Leafs fan, honestly, Robbie, they've never won in my lifetime. 1967 is the last time they won. I wasn't even close to being conceived by then.
Oh, goodness.
So 6 minutes after the game was over, I was like, all right, well, it's over. I don't dwell on it because you can't dwell on it. First of all, I'm into my 40s, so time to grow up. You can't dwell on a sports team. Like, boy, sometimes that Mike Johnson in poker in Vancouver. The old host of the first or one of the first podcasts in poker. He dwells on his Vancouver Canucks a lot. Like, man, how can you live life that way? So, no, as a miserable Leaf fan, it's sort of expected that they're not going to win. I actually had a lot of promise this year. I thought this could be a year that they could do something about things, but they didn't. The only saving grace about all my sports teams, because I'm an Arsenal fan and they've been crap for years now, is that I am a Cleveland Browns fan. And although they have never won in my lifetime, and yes, growing up, I was a Leafs and Browns fan. It's just the most horrible two teams that I could have picked. But the Browns are looking up and things were great. And it was exciting to be a Browns fan last year. Still is. I still believe in Baker Mayfield. Sort of weird that the guy is my height. He should be Tom Brady. That should be a quarterback, but I love him. God love him. And I love all that team. So there's a lot of excitement for the Browns. So I think it's, quelling some of the crushing results from my other teams.
Okay. Back to poker questions from Crystals. There's not as much big time poker in Canada, given the number of prominent players from the Great White North. Do you see that changing in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, it's been tough for Canada. And to be honest, if we would have held a GPI World Cup this year, Canada wouldn't have qualified. And there's so many problems when you're a Canadian poker player. The main one being when you come play in the States, you're taxed 30%. And you can recoup some of that money, but it's complicated. You need a lawyer, you need someone to help with that. So most of the players don't even bother. I think that the golden age of poker players is dwindling down.
Wow.
I think they have other projects. I think a lot of them got into stuff. They'll still play poker, but not as much as before.
Right.
Hopefully there's going to be, a renaissance. I think this recent push in poker in North America, I think went a long way to help out. So hopefully a lot of them will come out of the woodwork. But it's and Crystals is right. There is no, other than Playground and a few events in Calgary at the Deerfoot, there aren't events in Canada. There aren't big events in Canada. That needs to change. Niagara Falls, I guess, as well, WPT. But there's so few and far between where Playground has become the hub for all of Canada.
Right.
And when Playground has to close, or right now it just has casino games and not poker, that puts a big dent on our roster. So it's been tough for Canadian poker.
Okay, fair. Who is also we have two more from Crystals, then we move on. Who is the one poker player you would love to get one-on-one coaching from?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, we ask great questions here in the community.
Yeah, crystals, that's a good one. I remember that Mike Leah owes me 7-card stud sessions because I ran their fantasy. They did a fantasy poker at the WSOP with ODB a few years ago. He's intriguing because I really like his mixed games play. I'd just go with I go with Ivy just because of his mysteriousness. I'd like to learn about that. I just want to be cool. I'd like for him to teach me how to be cool at the table.
I love it. That's a great
I'll take
answer.
Phil Ivy.
Great answer. Can't go wrong. Take Phil.
Yeah.
And finally, from Crystals, who are some players on the GPI that are not currently household names that you've seen that we should watch out for?
I think in your community, that's tough because your community, the CardsChat community, is very up and up. They know these rising stars. I think of Nick Popillo just because of the fact that, but again, Nick Popillo is well known for people that know their stuff.
Sure.
But I think he's one of the next rising stars in poker.
Perhaps breakout player of the year or something like that. Yeah.
Actually, he wouldn't be able to. He could have been that last time, but he didn't qualify because he's already he ended up in the GPI top 10. So
sure.
He's that type of guy. But that's one guy. Yeah, it's been tough to recognize that talent since the pandemic started, just because we didn't have the results for it. A French player that I love, and if you're okay with subtitles, has one of the biggest YouTube channels in all of France, and that's Johan Gilbert, Yo Viral. Played a lot of the events at Seminole. He played the high rollers at Seminole and played the high rollers at the Poker Go studio last week,
right?
Or 2 weeks ago. So he's really making a push for high roller events. But again, one of the biggest French YouTube channels. He's got this house in Malta, Robbie, where he's got like a spaceship style chair that he uses with screens all around. It's almost like an egg.
Wow.
An egg. It's just really cool. And he's got Alex is jealous because Yovi has the best house in Malta. It is like on the top and the view is insane. So he's intriguing, he's cool, but very fashionable, and also likes to show the lifestyle. And that to me is cool as well, that he's not only successful, but he's willing to, take people into, the lifestyle that he enjoys and shows the best of Malta, the best of France, and the best of Vegas as he was here. So that's another one that I'd
and again, what's the name one more time? Johan?
Yeah, Johan Gilbert, but not pronounced
Gilbert.
Gilbert,
okay,
yeah, Gilbert. There's a U in there.
Okay.
G-U-I. So,
okay,
yeah,
cool.
Definitely someone to keep an eye on. There's a lot of French players actually that are on the rise. I think with the resurgence of French poker, with the Paris casinos, Paris poker rooms back up.
Yeah,
there's been a big resurgence. A lot of younger French players, I think, are going to be taking over in the next few years for sure.
Interesting. Très bon.
Yes.
Well. That's the extent of my French. That and Danis. I can pronounce Danis.
Right. Sort of French. Yeah.
There you go. Last two questions here from Acid Burn FX. Thank you so much for sending these in. Eric, this is a little bit generic. Which activities make you lose track of time?
Working in poker. Searching for results, searching for schedules. Sometimes you look at the clock and you're like, oh man, I've spent way too much time, trying to find something. Sometimes I obsess because I'm like, this has to be available somewhere. This can't be true that no one can find this result. And I'll just, get involved. And to be fair, just for everyone listening, I do that after what I do for a living. So
right.
I still take care of
the numbers.
It's not like I'm telling Robbie I'll be with you in 3 hours for this interview because I'm searching a New Zealand, poker tour event. A lot of that. Sometimes I get stuck in the YouTube, rabbit hole. It's usually like music videos. I'm like, oh yeah, Bryan Adams. I want to listen to this song, and then they have the suggested, and then you're stuck.
Oh, they're so good. It's like they know me.
They know, yeah.
Yes.
And then they'll show a Canadian band that you might not know, 5440, which is sort of like Bryan Adams, a bit more rocky. And I was like, yes, of course, I'll click that. And then the Tragically Hip, yes, of course, I'll be stuck in a Canadian Legends loophole. So
fair.
I guess that'll work.
And our final question for you, Eric, from, again, Acid Burn FX. If your life was a novel, what would be the title? And how would you want your story to end? Great question. Thank you, Acid Burn FX.
I think the title would be, I'll pick one person because it would be a group of people, but probably like, I did it, Uncle Jack. And Uncle Jack was the man that, recently had a heart attack. And I think his dream's always been to come to Vegas, probably won't be able to do that. But, I have uncles, my grandfather and my dad, a lot of them not with me anymore. But, for them, and I think a lot of French Canadians, it could be the Celine influence. When Celine got to Vegas, French Canadians, we wanted to come to Vegas, and Vegas was a dream. So I think it'd be like, I made it. I made it to Vegas,
Wow.
and that's special to me. And, I got married in Vegas and my parents were able to be there. So it's like Vegas has become very special. That's where I met my stepkids, and, Vegas has become so special to me that I think the people back home and even my friends are a little jealousy in there that I get to live in such an amazing city. And how it would end would be, I hope, and this is probably sad, but even though I'm retired, I hope to be working until, or at least have my brain working. So even if I'm not working, I hope I still get the next person that's running the GPI and Hendon mob will still allow me to enter results when I'm 76.
I like that.
Just make sure he's checking that I'm putting in the right info.
Right.
But yeah,
I'll just pad a few more Eric Danis results in there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'll give it to the other Eric.
Exactly.
Because I'll be old and I'll make the mistake.
Right.
But yeah, I think I want it to end like, and I don't want it to sound like I just want to work, because I don't. I'd be fine with retiring tomorrow. I'd find something else to do though. I think the ideal of sitting on the beach, relaxing is great. But after 2 days, I'd probably be like, all right, what to do? So yeah, I really hope that my brain never stops
That's
working.
beautiful.
It's probably my best hope.
It.
And of course, I hope to die old with my wife.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So the kids can take care of us and know how terrible it is the way we're taking care of them in there right now.
Definitely a great way to end the show. Thank you so much to our loyal listeners who sent in questions for Eric Danis. And again, a friendly reminder to all of you out there in the CardsChat community, we'd love for you to submit your questions for our future podcast guests in the dedicated thread on the forums. Please be sure to give us a good review on iTunes and spread the word via your social media channels if you'd liked the show. Anything else, Eric, before we let you go?
Yes, I forgot. My actually number one favorite person I've played poker with, because I've played multiple charity tournaments at her table, is Lacey Jones, one of the nicest persons on earth. Yeah, Lacey, we always talk about animals and life as vegetarians and such. So definitely Lacey Jones, number one.
Good stuff. Good to get that last shout out and shout out to Lacey Jones. Again, thank you so much to Eric Danis. Thank you all for tuning in once again to another episode of CardsChat. I'm Robbie Strazynski. You can follow me on Twitter at CardPlayerLife. I wish you all a wonderful day.